Let's keep with the livestock theme, and we'll check on the cattle markets now. Mississippi State University Livestock Economist Josh Maples joined me Wednesday to discuss what he's watching. And we began by talking about the recent rally in cattle futures prices. Last week, the November feeder cattle contract had its highest closing price in about a month at over $137. So what happened?
You know, we've certainly seen some volatility in that market or in those futures markets, right? And it was just a few weeks ago, you mentioned the high, but it was just a few weeks ago that we were talking about the lowest feeder futures contract levels since back in the spring. We know about the challenges that we had there. So, you know, last week was a big rebound week, and it erased a lot of that decline that we saw in the previous couple of weeks. There's quite a bit going on here. You know, live cattle futures rallied also, and of course that helps feeder prices. But on the feedstuff side, you know, we had a lot of action. We saw winter storm bring some much needed precipitation, especially to that southern plains region where winter pasture conditions were getting pretty dicey. So that hopefully is going to allow for some more winter pasture progress there and some more stalker demand. But then we also saw corn prices drop. You know, corn prices have been on a prolonged rally. And we saw a pretty sharp drop in what corn prices were doing. That, of course, also lends some strength to feeder markets. You know, so both of those things really are situations that changed some last week and are going to be something to continue to keep an eye on moving forward for what feeder cattle prices are doing.
So in your opinion, Josh, what's it going to take for this market to keep going up for both live cattle and feeders?
Yeah, well, the first thing, especially on the auction, like the cash price side, is, you know, we're in the middle of what normally is our seasonal low at auction prices for a lot of weight classes. Now, seasonal patterns are different depending on what weight classes you're talking about. But we're in the middle of big runs of cattle right now, hitting auctions. So, you know, as we come out of that, that will probably provide a little bit of strength depending on weight class from a seasonal standpoint. But also what continues to happen, Troy, with the feedstuff side. You know, that storm last week, you know, as we said, hopefully is going to allow winter pasture to get a little boost and provide a little bit more demand for stalker cattle. But you know, that's gonna be a story throughout the winter. I mean, we talk about La Nina conditions are expected throughout the winter. That's, you know, dry conditions. So what impact that has on winter pasture and how long stalker cattle can stay out on pasture. But then also what continues to happen with corn, you know. So I think the feedstuff side is the one that I'm really kind of paying the most attention to right now in terms of what can happen with feeder cattle prices.
And yeah, you mentioned corn. We've been talking a lot about corn the last couple of weeks on the show. It was up over $4 last week. As of this recording, it's about $4 even. So for the guy watching who has some feeder cattle, what does he need to be doing right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that there's a clear answer at this point. You know, corn prices, they've shown the strength that you mentioned before last week, you know, had a pretty sharp drop last week. As always, Troy, I'm a proponent of some price risk management if it makes sense for your operation. I mean, everybody's going to be a little bit different in terms of what you need it for and for how long you need it. But, you know, I don't think there are clear signs right now that say, you know, you have to lock in right here because we're about to see a big rally or anything like that. So, you know, again, it's an important question, and I encourage everybody to look at it a little differently from their particular perspective. But I could see either side. I could see the side of wanting to do some risk management now, but also kind of on the wait and see side as well.
Any guesses as to where you see corn going over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the WASDE next week. So, you know, my guess, Troy, is at least until we get to that next WASDE report that's going to give us some updated production estimates, that we're going to hang around that $4 range, given kind of what's happened the last few days after the drop. So that report's going to be really important, I believe, in particular this year, just given some of the uncertainties surrounding it. You know, and additionally, there's other things besides just production here in the U.S. that are going to matter. And, you know, keeping an eye on progress in Brazil, And then also corn exports have been pretty strong. And so each of those, continuing to track those moving forward is going to have pretty big implications for corn prices here in the U.S. So there's quite a bit of factors right now that's making it really hard to really project a clear path.
And Josh, we'll end it today with any marketing or risk management advice you'd like to leave us with as we move through November.
Yeah, I'm going to bring us back to the feeder futures, Troy, because I think that's a really important point right now. If you look at projected Stalker budgets in particular, and I'm looking at that March feeder futures contract that a lot of folks use for winter grazing. Those projected Stalker budgets look a lot better now than they did just a short time ago, in part because of the rally that we mentioned earlier. So I would encourage folks to anybody that's looking at keeping Stalker cattle through the winter to really crunch the numbers and see if doing some sort of risk management makes sense for you right now, given the positive swing that we've seen in recent, really in the past 10 days or so. So that's my point right now, Troy. Is we've seen a pretty beneficial run up in feeder futures. It's worth taking a look at whether you should do something now.